Welcome to today's webinar, Introducing Minitab Brainstorm. Before we jump into the brainstorm, I'd like to introduce you to the Minitab Solution Center. The Solution Center is a brand new subscription offering that provides a comprehensive set of cloud-based solutions within a single web application, and which also includes a centralized file repository for seamless file access, navigation, and storage. At the heart of the Minitab Solution Center is Minitab Statistical Software, our market-leading analytics solution. Minitab statistical software looks at current and past data to discover trends, find and predict patterns, uncover hidden relationships between variables, and create stunning visualizations to tackle even the most daunting challenges and opportunities. To initiate cloud repository access with either Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive, you can access the Sign In button by selecting the Settings button under the respective repository names. Once you're signed in, you additionally have the options to manage the status of autosave, along with default save location for newly created projects and files. After authenticating, you can then navigate across all of the files and folders saved within your selected repository, including items from other native repositories that have been shared with you, or files that you might have recently accessed. For this webinar, we will be highlighting the functionality available within Minitab Brainstorm, which is one of the newest cloud-based solutions that is, again, exclusive to the Minitab Solution Center. So what do we mean when we say brainstorm? Well, for most of us, there are three main types of brainstorming tools. First is the Fishbone Diagram. This is probably the most common one that most of us are the most familiar with, which are used to identify potential causes of a main effect or a problem. So in this case, our main problem is we've got printer jams, and we've got a number of potential causes that we've thought of, and each are categorized under one of the six main categories: man, machine, measurements, environment, methods, and materials. Another major type of brainstorming tool is the CTQ tree, or critical to quality tree. And these are used to identify factors that are critical to quality. So in our example here, we have an ER department that's looking at the factors that are critical to quality patient care. And they've got at the top some pretty broad categories of factors that are critical to quality patient care. And each of those is further broken down to more and more specific factors until you get to ultimately a specific variable or metric and a benchmark. And then the last kind, and this is the most broad, are idea maps or mind maps. And those are used just to identify ideas or concepts that are related to a central topic or question. But by the most general definition, what's common across all of these is that Minitab brainstorming tools are used to gather and organize just lists of things. So even just a boring old grocery list ultimately can be used as a brainstorming tool. So all we're doing is we're categorizing and organizing things. And while all of these examples that I've shown so far are relatively simple, mostly because I'm empathetic to those of us who require our text on screen to be rather sizable, we know that in real life, the problems that we are tasked with solving are rarely small and neat. So these fancy organized lists frequently turn out to be vital tools in making our problem solving more collaborative, more productive, and more effective. So let's see this in action. First thing we're going to do is click Home to go back to our landing page, and we're going to click on Brainstorm. The first thing you'll see here are 7 options or templates for you to start from. The very first here is just Fishbone, your standard Fishbone diagram. You have your man-machine materials, 4S and 8P. Those are all specific types of fishbones. Then here's your CTQ tree, mind map, and idea map. Now, for example, we're going to choose man-machine materials fishbone. And to give you some context or background for this example, let's say that we make residential lighting fixtures. So many of our products are made of glass, or they're delicate in one way or another. And recently, we've been noticing a significant increase in reports from our customers saying they're receiving orders in damaged packaging, which then oftentimes results in damaged products that we have to replace at significant cost. And so we're tasked with trying to brainstorm this problem, try to identify some potential causes of this problem so that we can address it. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and enter our main problem. So in our case, it's orders arriving damaged. And then the man-machine materials fishbone, if you're unfamiliar with it, All it is it's just a fishbone that comes pre-populated with 6 main categories. So it's called man, machines, there's materials, and then these last 3 categories get short shrift and aren't usually mentioned in the title, but they're also their measurements, environment, and methods. And the purpose of these categories is just to help spark ideas by temporarily narrowing the scope of the problem. So we're going to use that and we're going to say, okay, let's focus first on materials. So what are some material reasons why our orders are arriving damaged? And let's say the first thing we think of is, okay, well, maybe it's a problem with the boxes themselves. Those boxes are too flimsy. Put that in there. Okay, so now we're ready to add our second idea, which would be a sibling of this idea that we've already added. So we're going to use this frequent access menu that comes up whenever we select an item and choose the Add Sibling button. And then we can immediately start typing, say we think, well, there might be problems with tape sealing. Okay. And now to enter our next item that would also be a sibling of this, I'm actually going to use a keyboard shortcut. So this is going to make you a lot faster as you're typing these. I'm just going to hit the Enter key on my keyboard. And boom, there's the next item. And let's say this is for puncture resistance. Okay. And by the way, one of the quickest ways to see common keyboard shortcuts is to use the right-click menu. So this is frequent access menu comes up just when you select an item, but you can also right-click and see the full gamut of options that are available to you. And here you also see the keyboard shortcuts. So there, for add a sibling is Enter, and for adding a child is Control-Enter. Now, let's say that we're not actually doing this fishbone all by ourselves. We're in a conference room with a couple other people that all have practical process knowledge, which is very helpful. We could keep adding children or siblings just like we've been doing as ideas come to us. But let's say we're with a particularly sharp group and the ideas are being shouted out fast and enthusiastically. You don't want to miss anything or forget anything just because you can't keep up. This is where the brainstorm list comes in. The brainstorm list is over here on the right. And what this allows you to do is quickly add ideas as they come to you or as they're being shouted out without thinking yet about where they might go. You're only limited by your typing speed. So if someone yells out, I don't know if we've got enough bubble wrap. So we'll put that in. And that spurs someone else to say, but maybe that's the wrong type of cushioning for our contents anyway. Type that in. And someone says, I don't think we've got a fragile label. So we type that in. All right, you just keep going and keep typing as ideas are being shouted out. And then once there's a little bit of a break in the action, then you can take these items and drag them over to the diagram where they make the most sense. So not enough bubble wrap, that's a materials issue. Wrong cushioning for contents, that's another materials issue. And then another advantage of this brainstorm list is it also functions as a sort of holding area for ideas that you're not quite sure where they go on the diagram yet. So no fragile label. Is that a materials issue because there is a label, but it frequently falls off? Or is that maybe a methods issue? Maybe there's no process step that includes making the label that says fragile. Or maybe it's a man issue. Maybe there's problems with your operators either skipping that step or forgetting that step. Until you have some clarification, this item or this idea can just hang out here in the brainstorm list, ready to go whenever you've figured out where it should go. And then last, the other use case for the brainstorm list is as a means of quickly copying and pasting in items from some other type of application. So an Excel spreadsheet, or in my case, I have a coworker emailed me a couple ideas, and so I just copied those from my email. And I come over here, right click, choose paste, and those items are ready to go, ready to be dragged over wherever they make the most sense. Now, this ability to click and drag items to the diagram is not limited to the brainstorm list. We can also click and drag items that are already on the diagram to reorganize. So box is too flimsy, let's move that over to methods, which of course that doesn't really make sense. So let's just undo that. Or we can use arrow buttons to rearrange items within the same, rearrange items within a sibling set. So wrong cushioning for contents and not enough bubble wrap, they're pretty closely related. Let's put them next to each other. or we can add new layers to further our organization. So wrong cushioning for contents, not enough bubble wrap. That's both that both has to do with the packing materials. So let's add a new item here. Inadequate packing materials, and then put both wrong cushioning and not enough bubble wrap under that sub branch. And then same thing here for poor puncture resistance and boxes too flimsy. So instead of a sibling, let's add a child this time. Does the same thing. These are box quality issues. Poor puncture resistance, boxes too flimsy. Now you can see the problem we're starting to get into, and this is common with fishbones, is that they tend to really start to spread out. So another use case for those arrows is we can use them to better rearrange or group the larger branches and sub branches so that they're a little more space efficient. So just move that sub branch over. Same thing here with methods. Since this one's much smaller, it doesn't need to be on the end here. Same thing, let's move environment up. So now we're taking up a lot less space. Another option that's available to you to make your diagram more space efficient is over here under the display tab. And there's this density control here. So by default, the default value is this level of density. You can also spread it out even more if you really want to. But the option that I love is compact, is really just try to tighten this up and make it a lot more space efficient. And the last option that's available to you, I give fair warning, this is a bit of a hot take, but I kind of hate fishbone diagrams. Not their utility. They're very powerful and useful tools. Just that fish layout in general with all of these branches off of one long main branch. When they're small, there's not a lot of layers to them. They're great. They look great. But as soon as you get a bunch of layers, and and especially as they get big, they tend to really become kind of unwieldy. So again, hot take alert, I know, but I really prefer tree diagrams to fishbone diagrams. So let's do that. So over here again, under the display tab, we have this type section, and I can just change my fishbone from a fishbone to a tree diagram instead. Move this over. Just again, a lot easier to see the hierarchy. So another option that's available to you. Okay, back to idea generation. So let's say it has started to stall. We have our room full of people with practical process knowledge, and they're all sitting there silently, rubbing their chins and looking up at the ceiling thoughtfully, but nobody's coming up with any ideas. Now is the perfect time to bring in your AI partner. So for example, let's look at problems with tape sealing. What are some of the causes that could contribute to problems with tape sealing? No one in the room has any ideas. We're after lunch, say we're starting to get tired. Well, let's see if AI can come up with any ideas for us. So I'm going to click on it, and then from the frequent access menu, here's this icon with the 3 stars. This is our AI menu. So if I click on that, I see 2 options, and AI Quick Generate is the first, which is the one that we're going to use. And what it does is it says, okay, it's going to take the item that I selected, so problems with tape sealing, and its parent, which is materials, and its grandparent, which is orders arriving damaged, and its great grandparent, and great, and so on, as far back as that exists. And it's going to feed that into a prompt that says, generate potential causes of the main effect or problem. So we're going to click this and see what it comes up with. And now, as with anything with AI, there's always room for surprises. There's no guarantees it will come back with something helpful or even reasonable. It's not a human, despite passing the Turing test. But just like George Box said, all models are wrong, some are useful. So how I think of AI in Brainstorm is as this tireless teammate who's always willing to jump in and bolster my own brainstorming. So even if I don't use all of the ideas it generates, I can almost always make use of some of them. Or even sometimes I'll think, okay, well, that's not quite right, but it does make me think of something else. So let's look at the specifics here in this instance. It came up with, let's see, it says inadequate adhesive strength. Yeah, that seems plausible. Leave that there. Improper application technique. Yep, that also seems plausible. Although anytime we see the word technique, it makes me think that should be under methods or maybe man. So let's go under, put that under methods. Environmental humidity effects. Yep, also seems plausible, but it's got environmental right in the name. Let's move that over to environment. Tape material compatibility, sure. And surface cleanliness issues. Yep, those seem plausible. And now I could keep generating ideas. It will continue to produce more and more as I go along. We're going to stick with this for right now. One thing I do hope you notice is this little icon on all of the items that it generated. It just gives you an indication that these items were generated by AI. And what that does is hopefully it's a helpful reminder that this was generated by AI. You should probably have a human review it for accuracy. Now, once you have reviewed it and you want to claim it as your own, you can go back into this AI menu and choose to remove the AI symbol. Or if you want to keep it around, you just don't want to show it at the moment, you can use the show menu down here in the bottom and just hide those little icons for right now. I'm going to undo just to keep them shown though. Before we go any further, let's talk style. So personal background, I am a lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I say this at the risk of alienating any other American football fans watching this or anyone outside the US who is currently rolling their eyes at the American calling this sport football. I appreciate everyone humoring me. But in honor of their recent Super Bowl title, let's make this diagram Philadelphia Eagles themed. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this main node here, orders arriving damaged, and it's this burgundy color, and we're going to instead make that just a solid black. So I'm going to click over here under the Layout tab, and I can change the text style and the text color if I want. I'm going to change the fill color though. So instead of this red or burgundy, I'm going to drag this down here to the corner and make that just pure black. There we go. Same thing, I can change the line color. I'm going to just make the line black as well. Okay. And then for the next layer down, I'm going to make these Kelly green. So same thing, go over to the layout, pick my fill color, and I could try to just kind of guess where that color is, but like a good Eagles fan, I happen to have the hex code for Kelly green memorized. So I'm just going to type that in. And in all seriousness, this is really helpful, especially if you have like corporate colors or something you want to match, or like a PowerPoint slide deck or something like that. And you want to match colors. As long as you have the hex code or the RGB values, you'll be able to specify the exact color that goes into your brainstorm diagram. Same thing, I could change the line color. I'm going to instead just turn the line off by setting my line thickness to 0. Okay. Now that's great. This one is all set, but I have these other ones and I don't want to have to redo my style. So instead, what I'm going to do is if I click on one of these other items and from the frequent access menu, I choose my color picker, I could choose one of these predefined styles down here, or I can use this styles in use section up here to reuse a style that I've already defined somewhere else. So there's my Kelly green, click that. And to do this for multiple items at a time, I'm going to click and drag. So as you can see, as I start to click and drag and make this lasso, this pink box, and that's going to select everything inside that box. So I selected all of these at once, and then same thing. Let's use styles in use and make those green. Very nice, looking sharp. Now, I know the Fishbone is one of the most commonly used tools by Minitab users, so I wanted to make sure I covered that as my main example today. But brainstorming tools have broad utility. So we just walked through root cause analysis, looking at potential cause of a problem, or you might even consider using a brainstorming tool for something like a 5 whys. We saw a CTQ tree example earlier today, where we're looking at factors that are critical to quality, or you could even think about using them as critical to customer, critical to cost, and so on. But again, just in general, they are useful tools whenever you have a lot of things to identify, organize, put in a hierarchy. So potential options or solutions, project ideas, or potential criteria for evaluating those solutions. They're really helpful for managing voice of customer feedback, requirements, things like that. Project management work, like managing activities or action items or tasks, even brainstorming things like risks or failure modes, or meta commentary on using brainstorming tools to document the use cases of brainstorming tools. But another big category that I wanted to touch on here is decomposition. So we tend to think of brainstorming tools as expansive, as really filling out a space, a problem space, or what have you. But they're also useful in the reverse case of taking a big problem and breaking it down into its composite pieces. So something like a team or team hierarchy, using it for an org chart, or taking a project and breaking it down, something like a work breakdown structure. And another big use case that we're going to use as our last example today is functional decomposition. Now, this is a method that is probably more applicable to any R&D folks that are on the call. But functional decomposition, what that does is it takes a part or a product and breaks it down into its components, subcomponents, functions. First thing I'll do is go back home, click on Brainstorm. And now I have to choose one of these as my starting point. It really doesn't matter which, because the first thing I'm going to do is change the layout anyway. So I chose Fishbone, but again, the first thing, go over to Display, and under Type, I'm going to choose Right Tree. That's traditionally the structure that we see for functional decomposition. While I'm in here, I'm going to give it a title, turn that title on. And for example, today, we are going to be doing a functional decomposition of a bicycle. Click and drag to quickly delete all of these other things. All right, and we're ready to go. Now, admittedly, our tree diagram is looking a little bare at the moment, but that's okay, because what we're going to do is show how quickly we can fill this out by asking our Minitab AI partner to do some of the heavy work for us. So the last time we used AI Quick Generate, and that worked well because we were using AI in a context that the model was already very familiar with. We didn't have to give it a lot of extra details. We were asking it to identify potential causes of a main effect or a problem. If we do that here, it's going to assume that we're asking it to find main effects of a problem when our main problem is bicycle. So it's going to give us some weird things here, not what we're looking for. So let's undo. And instead of quick generate, let's do custom prompt. So you can see when you bring up custom prompt, you can see the default prompt, which is potential causes of an effect or problem. Not what we're looking to do. Let's replace it with something a little more appropriate. So let's give it some background. I'm creating a functional decomposition of a bicycle as part of a product design process. And now at this point, I can be as descriptive as I want. I might give it more details on my expectations for how the design process works, or I might give it more details about the type of bicycle I'm producing. Maybe it's a mountain bike or an e-bike or a tandem bike, what have you. But I can be as descriptive as I want. I'm going to be pretty generic for today. And I'm also going to give it some background on what I want it to generate. So I'm going to be polite because I can't help myself, even though I'm talking to a machine. Please generate the main components. All right, let's see what it comes up with this time. All right, so this time it came up with frame, wheels, handlebars, brakes, gear system. Yep, that's pretty good. Let's see, I think we're missing seat, so let's add that in there. And let's start breaking this down further. So wheels, do custom prompt. You'll notice that the description or the custom prompt is still filled out, which is helpful because if I was really descriptive and I put a ton of detail in here, I wouldn't have to retype all of that. Because the only change we're making is instead of main components, we're doing subcomponents this time. Okay, so for wheels, it came up with rims, spokes, hubs, tires, valves. Pretty good. I would argue valves is actually a subcomponent of tires, so let's drag that up there. Let's try and break down hubs more. This is still accurate. Axle assembly, bearing system, hub shell, free hub, spoke interface. Yep, that all looks great. And maybe at this point where you want to switch over to functions. Custom prompt, generate, load distribution, friction reduction, rotation support, durability enhancement, alignment precision. So all look pretty good. Alignment precision, I don't think that really makes sense. We'll just hit delete, get rid of that. But we could keep going. And hopefully what you're seeing here is that while Minitab AI, it certainly can't do all of the work for me, right? It's very important that I'm looking through everything that is creating and adjusting, removing, modifying as needed. It definitely speeds me up. So ultimately, it's making me more efficient and more effective at the task at hand. Takes away some of that tedium that might not really be necessary for me to waste my time on. Okay, so that was Minitab Brainstorms. Before we wrap up, I did want to point out that all of the brainstorming tools and functionality that you saw today is also available as part of a quality project in Minitab Workspace. So let's take a look at that. Let's go back home again. And this time, instead of Minitab Brainstorm, let's come the whole way over here to Minitab Workspace. Now again, everything we saw already today that was in Minitab Brainstorm is also included in Minitab Workspace. But in addition to that, Minitab Workspace includes a whole host of powerful visual tools for problem solving and executing quality projects, such as a process map or flow chart, Monte Carlo simulation, value stream map, FMEAs, both process and design, Gantt chart, C&E matrix, RACES, as well as 90 plus other tools, control plans, SciPoc, Pew matrix, they're all in here. Now, in addition to the individual tools, Workspace also includes roadmaps for phased projects. So something like an 8D project or a CDOV or a Kaizen event or your standard DMAIC project. And these project roadmaps come predefined with the phases of that type of project. So here we have to define, measure, analyze. And within each phase, they come pre-populated with the tools or deliverables you might expect of that phase. Now, you can add, rename, delete any of these tools. So if I needed something different, I'm going to click Add Tool, and you can see all of the categories under here. So process improvement, risk analysis, root cause analysis, project management, lean, decision making, new product development, strategy, graphs, prioritization. All of the tools that you might need to execute a quality project, solve a complex problem, they're here for you. Now, we don't have enough time today. I know that was very brief. So for more information on Workspace, please visit our website, minitab.com, or reach out to sales. And with that, let me thank you for attending today. And please do get in touch with us with any questions or feedback. We're always so excited to hear from our users.